Hey everybody. Hope you guys are all doing alright. On the last one, the first one I guess, I got response from Wesley. Good to hear from you, buddy. But that's about it. I guess other people watched it because I looked at it, it's like 10 views. But I guess they didn't care enough to respond. If I'm just talking to Wesley, that's alright too. I kind of want to talk about something real quick, just because it's something I haven't experienced in a while. I play Pokemon pretty religiously, if you didn't know. I've played all the games. I have not played through Pearl all the way, but I have, or Diamond, but I have done Platinum, so Gen 4. Same difference pretty much, I guess. But I've played them all so much that there's not a lot of surprise anymore. I pretty much know where everything's at. I know where to find the Pokemon I want to use. And even though I haven't played Generation 6 or 7 as much, because they're newer, there's not a lot of exploring in them. I've noticed that with the new 3D Pokemon games on the 3DS, there's not a lot of extra areas to explore. The post game usually doesn't have a lot of content. Overall, they've just become a lot more linear, and there's not a lot to do other than beat the game. I think the problem is the Pokemon Company is trying to emphasize Wi-Fi battles more. So they're trying to make it so you can get through the game real quick and get right to breeding and catching all the Pokemon you need for Wi-Fi battles. So I think that's a big problem, but there's just not a lot of extra caves to explore. So it's like, I haven't played a lot of Legend of Zelda, but I definitely haven't beaten any of the games more than once. But part of the appeal for Zelda for me, I've played the original almost all the way through. I've got Ocarina of Time on my Wii U. I haven't gotten very far. I'm not very good at the game. And I've beaten A Link Between Worlds. Yeah. And part of the appeal for Zelda is exploring the world and not really knowing what you're doing half the time, but discovering things along the way. And that's the same appeal that I get from Pokemon. I'm all alone, just me and my Pokemon, trying to figure out the world and figure out how to progress. Like, there's some parts in Pokemon that I still get lost at because I just haven't played the game enough. A big example of that is the Whirl Islands of Pokemon Gold and Silver. That's where you catch Lugia. And I only had Pokemon Gold as a kid, and you can only catch Lugia at the end of the game after you beat the Elite Four and everything. So I usually never even went back to catch Lugia. At that point, it really doesn't matter, unless you're just trying to get a level 70 to beat Red with, I guess. So I've traveled through the Whirl Islands like 3 times in my life, and I've been playing Pokemon Gold for about 14 or 15 years. But so, like, I love to explore in these games, and in Generation 7 especially, in Sun and Moon, there's like one extra cave, and it's really, really small. And it's like, the only reason you need to go down there is, I think there's a TM. But there's no, I don't even think there's any new Pokemon down there. But last night, I was playing Pokemon Black 2. Generation 5 even though a lot of the Pokemon designs are crappy and kind of threw me off at first, the story and the region are fantastic. And Black and White 2 added a whole bunch of new areas as well. I don't know if this area is in the original Black and White, but last night I found an area that I have never found before in any of my playthroughs in Gen 5, and I was so excited. Like, it's that feeling in Legend of Zelda whenever you finally find, like, the raft, and you're able to go to all these new places. That's the feeling I got. It really took me back to my childhood of just exploring and finding all these strange new Pokemon and a bunch of items and secret areas that I never knew, finding hidden items and everything. At this point, hidden items aren't all that hard for me to find because there's patterns to it. You know, you can check the trash cans, or potted plants have a lot of hidden items on them, and usually there's bare spots in the grass that are a giveaway of, okay, here's where the hidden item is. So it's not as hard to find them anymore after you've played Pokemon for so long. But, you know, it's a thrill to find that thing that you've been playing this game for years, and all of a sudden you're finding a bunch of stuff you didn't even know existed. But I was playing through Black and White 2, and I just got Waterfall. You don't get Waterfall until you get to Victory Road. So I decided, you know what, before I take on the Elite Four, I'm gonna go throughout the region and find all the waterfalls and figure out what I could find. And let's see, what town was it by? I think it was Humilau City. I think that's how you say it. But if you go south from there, there's this whole series of waterfalls. It's kind of like a little maze. But if you get to if you took the path that I did, I don't even know if I could get back there. It's called like the Abundant Shrine or the Abandoned Shrine or something like that. And it's this shrine devoted to the legendary Pokemon Landorus. And I had never been there before. And it's kind of weird because the last time I played through Black and White, I found an area that I didn't know existed either. If you go to the Icarus City or Isurus City, however you say that, and go through like the moors. I don't remember the name of the area, it's been a while, but it's devoted to the legendary Pokemon Keldeo, and there's a whole event that took place there if you got the game early enough. I didn't, so I didn't get the event, but I could still go there. If you take the 3 Swords of Justice legendary Pokemon, which are Terrakion, Virizion, and Cobalion, if you took them there and had the event, you would get Keldeo there as the 4th member of that group. But, you know, they're optional areas. I don't even think there are any good items there. I think I found a rare candy at the Abundant Shrine, so, you know, that's cool. But it's just so fun to... It's optional. Like, it's not fun to find a place, oh, I'm required to go here, I have to go here. Except in Legend of Zelda, because some of the dungeons are pretty hard to find. But it seems like the whole game of Legend of Zelda could be titled Optional Quest. Like, obviously, the main game is to find the dungeons, but you're not really given that task in the game. You're kind of deciding on your own quest, which is a lot of fun. But with Pokemon, where you have a clear task and the in-game characters tell you what you're trying to do, finding the next gym is just like a checklist. But you're finding these optional places, like in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. I was going to say Red and Blue, but it's the same game. But finding the power plant, or going through Seafoam Islands, or well, there's an optional path to get to Fuchsia City. You can either take the bike path, or I think it's Route 13 and 14 to get to Fuchsia. that means that one of those routes is completely optional. So going through them all and combing through and finding all the items, it's a big task, but it's a lot of fun. Not so much anymore because I know where everything is. Now it's just like, okay, here's Route 13 and 14. Here's this giant gauntlet of a route. But the first couple times you do it, going through and finding the rare candies, it tests you. Oh, do you still have a Pokemon with Cut on your team? Here's some bushes to find some extra trainers and items and things. So optional areas are my favorite thing. Pretty much in all video games, the story is the last thing I do. Like, I have an Incredible Hulk video game, and why would I ever do the story whenever I could just rampage around New York? You know what I'm saying? I can take down the Empire State Building just by punching it a bunch and breaking the foundation. Why would I go through and fight Abomination whenever I could just mosey around New York, get the cops after me, and eventually the army, and I think Hulkbusters, like Tony Stark's Hulkbuster armor, eventually comes after you, like all these different suits. But I feel like the reason this stuff is a lot more fun than the actual game is because the writers make a story. It's like, okay, how am I going to get to A to B? But the optional stuff is where they actually get to go, you know what would be cool? This. And then they program that into the game. Oh, you know what would be cool? Having 3 different dungeon areas where you can find these 3 really powerful Pokemon, but you don't have to go through them. The only real exception to that is Moltres, who is in Victory Road, but he's in an optional area of Victory Road. Like, he's not even part of the main path. So you still have to explore to find him. Not really. To get through Victory Road, you have to push the boulders on the ground to open up paths. And right by one of them, there's a ladder. You go down there and head all the way to the east. And Moltres is just sitting there. So it's not really far off the beaten path. But if you know the path through Victory Road, you might not even bother going to Moltres. Especially if you started with Charizard. You don't really need 2 fire flying types on your team. But for Zapdos and Articuno, you really got to know the puzzle. It's not the easiest puzzle in the world, getting through Seafoam Island. And then with Zapdos, you have to remember that there's a spot to surf by Rock Tunnel. Excuse me. But, I don't know. It seems like all modern games are just getting less about exploring. I feel like different time periods, different eras of video game history have different focuses on what they're trying to do with the game. Like, if you play the main action games I remember whenever I was a kid were fighting games, like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and around the time, probably 4th or 5th grade, there's this big boom of action-adventure games like the Arkham series. I think I was about 5th or 6th grade when Arkham Asylum came out. And that was like the prime. Arkham Asylum and Arkham City are like still held up as incredibly good action-adventure games. Even though other games have really emulated them, and the Arkham series wasn't the first. Pretty much action-adventure games before were pretty much just movie tie-ins, like the X-Men games and the Batman Begins video game, which basically means the video game developers were held up by the movie makers, so they didn't really have a lot of free reign in the projects, so usually the games weren't all that good. I've heard that X-Men 2 was a pretty good game. I've never played it. So there's that. But right now, it seems like video games are really heavy on story. You got popular video games like Undertale and Five Nights at Freddy's. Or Five Nights at Freddy's is a really good horror game, but the big emphasis of the fan base that you see online everywhere, and it's the main focus on the Game Theory channel, it seems like sometimes, it's really the lore and the story. And I think that's where Sun and Moon, it kind of evolved from. You got the basic Pokemon formula, but they changed it up. There weren't any gym battles, there were trials. I guess because they wanted to focus more on the personalities of the trial captains, rather than just walk in a gym and fight a gym leader, and maybe they have a small side quest with them. Pretty much to get the story of the gym leaders in the old games, you'd have to talk to the NPCs, and they'd give you a little flavor text. Like there's somebody in Mount Moon in Fire Red Leaf Green. I don't think he was in Red and Blue, but they added him in Fire Red Leaf Green, who talks about Brock and how he helps him mine or something, dig for fossils. So that was kind of cool, Brock. And it was kind of a throwback to Gen 2, because whenever you go back to Kanto and Gold and Silver and fight Brock, he's got the fossil Pokemon on his team. So I thought that was kind of an interesting Easter egg. But for me, I'm not looking for a good story out of my video games, as long as it's fun. Because like I said, most of the time I ignore the story most of the time anyways. And the problem with Pokemon X and Y and Sun and Moon, for me, was it's way too heavy on story. Back in the day, you had one rival, and he'd show up every once in a while and fight you. In Generation 6, X and Y, you had 4 or 5 friends that you were journeying with, and they would interrupt your journey constantly. Oh, here's how many Pokemon on the Pokedex have you registered? I'm going to talk to you about Pokemon moves for 5 hours. I'm going to show you how to do horde encounters. I'm going to show you how to catch Pokemon. Every 2 seconds, every city at least had 2 encounters with your rivals. And it was so annoying by the end that I didn't care about the characters. Even though they're going for character development, and they are good fleshed out characters by the end. But I just don't care because they're constantly interrupting me whenever I'm trying to do something. And then Sun and Moon, I'm trying to remember. Oh, it's Lily. Lily with Cosmog is constantly interrupting you with the story about the Ultra Beasts and a big place where Sun and Moon went wrong is they had 2 evil teams. And one of them was kind of pretending to be good at the beginning, and they kind of uncovered their nefarious plans later on. But 2 is too many to keep track of. It really slows down the game, and it distracts from the evil teams. Like, why am I paying attention to Team Skull if Team, what are they called? The Aether Foundation is here as well? And why am I paying so much attention to the Aether Foundation if in the next 2 seconds Team Skull's going to come and interrupt me? It's just too much to focus on for a cohesive story. And people praise the Sun and Moon story as being really great, but for me it's so slow. It takes forever to do anything that I want to do. I don't care about all the side activities like taking pictures. It's fun to waste time with, but it's optional. I don't have to do it if I don't want to. But all this story crap that slows down the game and stops me from doing anything I want to do, it isn't optional. And it's timed events, so I can't help. I can't help but wonder what they're trying to do here. They're trying to tell this great story about ultra beasts and multiple dimensions in the Pokemon universe, and all I can think is, Nebby, get in the bag. If you haven't played Sun and Moon, that means nothing to you, but Nebby is just, I don't know if it's a Pokemon or an ultra beast. Here's the thing, the story was so weighed down, I don't even know if ultra beasts are actually Pokemon, or which Pokemon are ultra beasts. By the end of the story, I didn't know. Like the Pokemon Necrozma, I feel like it'd be cool for the story if Necrozma was a Pokemon, but Solgaleo and Lunala were ultra beasts that kind of came to the region, but Necrozma is like the legendary of Alola. But I don't know, especially with all the stuff for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, with Necrozma fusing with Solgaleo and Lunala. I don't know what's happening at this point. There's too much. Whereas with Red and Blue, you talk to Professor Oak, get your Pokemon, and you're pretty much on your way. And all the stuff with the professor's aides is optional. They don't engage you. You have to talk to them. That was a good way to do it. And the only things that were forced events were rival battles. I'm trying to think. Well, I guess there's a forced event of if you try to leave Pewter, an NPC will stop you and take you to the gym. But that's not bad. They just want to make sure you're getting the gym badges, and you know that's their way of telling you, hey, part of your quest is going through and taking on the gyms. The only other way you would know that, I guess, is if you if you read Professor Oak's computer, which I think I've done like twice in my life. I'm really bad about talking to NPCs. Sometimes I'll go through and just talk to everybody in town, see if I get any free items. I don't know. For me, the less the game talks to me and tells me what to do, the more I like it. I might be a little bit biased here, but I'm saying for me a lot. Sorry. It's like people who say literally every 2 seconds. Well, tell me what you think. If you like a story in a video game, that's all good. I know Ocarina of Time, there's a lot of story in that, but it's interesting to me. And it's not interrupting me every 2 seconds. Now, if I could only get good at the game and actually get to the end of the game, I'd be cooking with gas. But tell me, guys, tell me what your favorite game is and what you like about it. Or your least favorite game and what you hate about it. Do you guys care about the story in your games, or are you like me and just want to have a good adventure? I'm kind of curious, because it might be that because of the games I played as a kid, which had very little story influence at all, like nobody cares about the story of Street Fighter. Nobody cares about, well, I guess stories are okay. Like, I have a game, Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses, and it's the story of the War of the Roses if it took place in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe. So we're using children's trading cards to fight rather than, let's see, I guess they'd have crossbows at that point in Britain. Crossbows and swords and crap. Well, tell me what you're looking for in a video game. Or if you even care about video games. I know Some people don't play a lot of video games and they spend all their time watching YouTube. But let me know what you think. Tell me what you want me to talk about next. It took me a while to record a new one because I couldn't think of something to talk about. And last night I was playing Pokemon and I discovered a new area and I was super excited. So I kind of want to tell you guys about that. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a nice day, week, however long it takes me to do another one of these.